Let's think about total surplus and how, in practice, sometimes the market outcome differs from the social optimum. For any particular market we might look at, we can define marginal benefit as the extra well-being that each unit brings to the consumers in that market. We could also define marginal cost as the extra cost created by each subsequent unit to the producers in that market. Well, if the market is competitive, so if there are many buyers and many sellers, then marginal benefit is also the demand curve, and marginal cost is also the supply curve. Taken overall then, if all of the units that bring any benefit are produced, then the area under the marginal benefit curve, so under demand, will simply give us the total benefit that this good can bring. As far as costs go, the costs will add up as we make more and more units. There isn't a maximum possible level of cost because we can always make more and increase costs. But at any given output level, let's say here, the area under marginal cost up to some quantity is the total cost caused by the production of these units. Not necessarily the total cost of firms in the market, because there may be some fixed cost as well, but the costs that are incurred directly from producing the units. And so if we think about net benefits in the market, we'll have to subtract the costs from the benefits. So here, this is a graph of a market. If this is marginal benefit and marginal cost, then the area under marginal benefit and above marginal cost is net surplus. So the quantity level where the surplus is maximized, where we're achieving the highest possible level, is where supply and demand intersect, assuming again that both the demand side and the supply side are competitive. Now, what will happen if there are either benefits or costs that are not reflected in the consumer's marginal benefit curve and the producer's marginal cost curve? Suppose that there's a market with external benefits, so that for each unit, aside from the benefits brought to consumers, there's some additional portion of benefits that is created for others. Then the social marginal benefit will be a curve above the private marginal benefit. And then the total net surplus that can be achieved is actually the area under SMB and above marginal cost. So it will include also this portion. And so the way to maximize total surplus if there's a positive externality is by intersecting SMB and MC, and that will be at an efficient quantity QE above Q star. So in this case, if we're only producing at Q star, so if the market is simply allowed to reach its natural equilibrium, then what we'll see is the external benefits created will only accrue for Q star units. So the total surplus that will be achieved is this trapezoid, and that leaves out this corner. So if there are external benefits, then when the market is in equilibrium at Q star, the total surplus is not as high as it could be if the market was at QE, and that missing portion is a deadweight loss. If we have negative externalities, what that would mean is that there are external costs created by each unit. So now the total surplus in the market that can be achieved at most is this smaller triangle, the area under marginal benefit and above the social marginal cost. And that will be achieved at quantity QE, which is below the market equilibrium quantity. So what will happen now if we're producing at Q star? If we're at Q star, the participants in this market, so consumers plus producers in this market, are still going to earn surplus that's the area above marginal cost and under marginal benefit, because they're not affected in any way by the externality, by definition. So in that case, their combined surplus, so consumer plus producer surplus, is this triangle, just as if there were no externalities. However, if Q star units are being made, then they're creating an external cost, and that is, for each of those Q star units, they're creating this external cost, the vertical distance between SMC and MC. So that will mean this area. So the actual total surplus in the market, when we take into account external effects as well, will be this triangle, that's producers and consumers in this market, minus this area. So that actually comes up to the smaller triangle, right? Because we're taking out this area, minus this. So total surplus is this area minus this. If Q star units are being produced, the highest possible achievable total surplus is just this area, and that's if QE units are being produced. That means that this is now the deadweight loss. So in both cases, the further the quantity produced is from QE, the more deadweight loss accumulates, and we can measure it as the area under SMC and above marginal benefit if we have negative externalities, or the area under SMB and above marginal cost for the units that are not being produced. So this deadweight loss is due to a missed opportunity, and this deadweight loss is due to overproduction. So units for which costs exceed benefits are being made. So there are two things happening. When there's a negative externality, there's the fact that we have an inefficient outcome, so total surplus is not as great as it could be. And there's also a transfer of surplus from outside the market to the producers and consumers in this market, right? Because now part of what makes up consumer plus producer surplus is actually because of costs they've imposed on others.